Hey Gary, how's it going?
Good. I was just talking to somebody who is actually in the Bosnian conflict, and that's where your labs are.
Yep, you betcha.
So Wade, uh, people are talking about the Bible. It's making some waves out there. Yes. Um, it's I think it's because people have. There's been so much disruption or so much bullshit about diets and beliefs about diets and what's good and what's not good out there. It's been hard for people to get their grasp on it. Like there's just too much noise in the market. And what you've done with it is you've taken all the noise out of it. You've made it into something that everybody can digest and they can become an expert literally by reading the Bible.
Exactly. I call it the fad-free diet. And what I mean is most people have ascribed to a dietary fad. It's the blood type diet, it's the keto diet, it's the paleo diet, it's the plant-based diet, it's the raw food diet, it's the metabolic typing diet, it's the blood sugar diet, it's the fat diet, it's the fat. Like, if you've been in the industry as long as you and I, you see these rising and descending trends. And we identify in the first couple of chapters of how people get hooked into something that sounds good from an expert who has some aspect of the truth, but not the whole truth as applied to the individual. Now, depending on what fad that you get excited and caught into because you got to lose 10 pounds for the wedding, or that you want to look your best for the high school reunion, or you just can't put your pants on anymore and enough is enough, you capture on whatever the latest fads. And for the first maybe 2 or 3 months, because you're following some routine or discipline, it works. Yeah. But many of the things within that fad are likely suboptimal for you over the long term. And what happens is the diet stops working, or it's going against your emotional, psychological, spiritual, or cultural beliefs so much that you can't stay on that diet because of the consequences to you. And so what we did with the Ultimate Nutrition Bible is we said, look, there's a lot of ways to slice the onion, but now science has been able to demonstrate that you have certain genetic advantages and you have certain genetic liabilities. And if you don't know what they are, the chances of you stumbling onto a diet that works for you in the long term, or that provides the most benefits to you from your particular genetics, are almost zero. And unless you've spent your entire life like someone like myself studying this, you don't know that information. And frankly, you're at a disadvantage to even assess that situation. So what we did is we packed, Matt and I have over 65 years of combined experience. He's a ketogenic guy. Yeah. I'm on a plant-based diet. And I have no horses in the game for the individual that's listening of what diet they choose that's right for them. What I want to provide for them is the specific information of how they determine the diet that's right for them. Now, some of the factors that you got to think about, yes, there's their genetics, there's your goals, there is the lifestyle that you want to live, there is specific factors in your microbiome that may be influencing your diet. There could be, as you identify, fascia-related issues that are putting pressure points on key elements that are screwing up your metabolism or your brain function. There are social elements that are influencing how your family works, the dynamics that go on it, the things that you like to do. Maybe the lifestyle comes up. Maybe you travel a lot. Maybe you have kids. If you're not factoring all these things into the equation, you're going to end up like everyone else. The average person has tried 6 different diets. 97% of the people who start a diet will eventually gain all the weight back and more within 3 years of starting any dietary strategy. That's on us as industry experts. And so Matt and I have coached over 15,000 people personally combined. And we've helped somewhere around 500,000 people worldwide solve various nutritional issues with our company, BioOptimizers. We combined all that experience. We took 875 peer-reviewed research studies that were reviewed by our in-house PhD for scientific validity to validate what we're talking about the books. We break down 5 different major dietary strategies that encompasses the vast majority of dietary strategies. We give you information on the new field of genetics and epigenetics and how those influences not just what diet is right for you, but what supplements and maybe biohacking technology. We have an additional thing that comes outside of the book. You get the book, but you also get a whole 200-page guide on all of the nutritional supplements, not just the supplements that BioOptimizers make, but what supplements do, what they are for, and who they can benefit based on those other factors. This book is literally a Bible. It is the all-encompassing system to provide the defense network that you require to be able to see through the smoke and mirrors of all these fads and dietary strategies and gurus and followings and cults and social media and Facebook groups to finally say, look, I can just go to the book. I don't have to read the whole book. I can go, so-and-so says this. Well, let's just go to this chapter. Is that true? And is that true for me? And is that true for the long term? And boom, you have the answer. And that's it. You solve virtually every dietary challenge that you'll ever have for the rest of your life with one single reference guide, the Ultimate Nutrition Bible.
So yeah, and that's what I like about it. It's basically what you've done is you put together all the homework, because people have to make their own decisions. And they're the only ones that live in their body. And if they don't have the resource, I mean, I have a lot of information about it. I spent my life dieting, helping people, coaching people. I've worked medically, non-medically. And even then, if I don't know what that person's like or what they're, how they deal with things in their life, I can only point them in a direction. And that's why we specifically don't guide people in that area. We give them the framework and say, here are the things you can do. One of the biggest ones that is coming up right now is autoimmune symptoms for and now we have autoimmune heart issues, autoimmune brain issues, autoimmune MS issues, autoimmune Parkinson's. So we have autoimmune issues causing all of these diseases, neuromuscular and otherwise. What is it that's a strategy for somebody to do now when they're starting to have these things?
Well, first and foremost, I have to kind of explain in layman's terms what an autoimmune condition is.
Sure.
And basically what's happening is that your body is reacting to something inside of your lifestyle, whether that was an exogenous substance that has entered in the body through some area, or a food particle or a suboptimal thing that you're taking, or an environmental situation that is causing a hyper response in your immune system. Right. In other words, your immune system is attacking this substrate for some reason in an uncontrolled way. It's not managing. It doesn't know how to figure it out. And the thing is you as the individual have no idea what that might be. There's just an endless array, and that's why so many people struggle with autoimmune conditions, because it's not one thing. It's not like, hey, there's this one element that's causing the problems. No, there's a multitude of things. And so what we advocate in the Ultimate Nutrition Bible is to recognize that your immune system has been developed over millions and millions of years. It is
it's just not me. It's what I was born into.
All of your ancestors for 10,000 generations and everything that they were exposed to has resulted in the development of your immune system to handle things. Now, in the last 100 years, we have turned on a fire hose of elements of all sorts of things that no one in the last 10,000 generations have had to deal with. And this is stressing our immune system to the max. And if you are not supporting your immune system with the elements it needs to adapt to the challenges of today, you are in a host of trouble. And some people are more genetically predisposed to have these issues come up. And you'll see this run in families, and you'll see this happen. So what does it mean to run in families? Well, there's a genetic condition in this environment that will result in what they call, your genes are your genetics, and the phenotype is the expression. Now, the world of nutrigenomics and epigenetics, these are some big sounding worlds, is essentially using elements that you have access to to switch off suboptimal genes and turn on optimal aspects of your genes. And we have a couple of chapters in doing that so that, you know, if you're suffering from one of these conditions, you can go get a genetics test. You can identify what these problems are, and then you can identify the infractionary elements that are disrupting your system, as well as the elements that you can switch on to help your immune system do the job. And that's what makes, one of the elements, I should say, that makes this book so much more unique than anything anybody had ever read before. This technology and information just wasn't available to the general public until, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. It's complicated, but what we've done is we've simplified it. We've put it in layman's terms that anybody can understand. You get into epigenetics and nutrigenomics and all these things, and people glaze over, and you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, we're just going to write you a prescription, and oh yeah, by the way, it has this laundry list of side effects, but we hope that it's going to change your kitchen. The average middle-aged person in the United States right now is on 17 different medications, many of them which is contraindications. If you look at the mortality tables, the medical industry is either third or fourth. Medical error is the third or fourth leading cause of death in the world.
Hey, you know what? You know what's bizarre? Go Google that, and they've removed it from all the searches. But if you go medical error is what percentage of that, they'll give you the percentage, but they've removed it from every survey you can imagine.
Correct. And it's like the food pyramid that came out, which was actually a pyramid of lobbyist groups that influenced the government and to decide what you needed to eat. And now it's the same thing when you're dealing with information around pharmaceuticals and medical industries. So the reality is this: our institutions have been captured by special interest groups who are influencing the data over and above, and the consumer is left with subpar information to make the decisions that they need to. Medical doctors are good for acute care. It's wonderful. You got a broken bone, you got an injury, you need a surgery. State of the art. But they don't have nutrition training. Most of them have no experience in genetics and epigenetics, and they simply don't have the time or resources to provide the information to you, even if they know it, because they are clocked into a very limited nib, and they are regulated to not make comments about your nutrition, about supplements, and about the things that you could do that. Many of them do it on their own. I have a lot of medical friends, and we sit outside and they go, I'm so handcuffed in my own industry. I've got the golden handcuffs. I've got all this authority, all these degrees, all this information, and I'm in a regulatory box where I can't help my clients, and it drives a lot of them absolutely crazy. So I have a lot of empathy and compassion for these doctors who dedicated their life to this, but are regulated in a position where they can't really help you.
So we have people that'll have a whole host of diseases. So the largest stressor on the human body, in my opinion, is the digestion, processing, and elimination of food. It takes 80% of our energy. That's a stressor. So if we reduce that stressor over time, the body has more energy to heal itself, to work, and adapt to the environment. So this comes back to why certain supplements, like for example, a lot of chemicals in the world and in the diet right now, almost can't get away from them unless like we viciously protect ourselves, but there's still a lot. So how do we take, like, for example, how do we get some of these deleterious chemicals that are already in our system? How do we clean this up, and how do we absorb more? Because somebody said it's not a lack of nutrition or electrolytes causing my low blood pressure. I have an enlarged heart, no pulmonary artery. So I'm not going to ask you to comment on the medical part of that, but the body, if it's able to absorb the right nutrients, the body can perform, and it has to be hydrated too. But if it has all this stressors from chemicals and from food, it just can't do what it's supposed to do. So how do we give our body back the best chance to survive in the environment?
Well, a number of years ago, and I have this available on our website, I created what's called the Awesome Health System. And first and foremost, and you understand this, nutrition is not the most important thing in regards to our health and well-being. And how do I know this? You can go a month without eating. You went, what,
44
40-some
days?
days? You didn't eat. So is food the number one thing that you need for health? No. How long can you go without water?
Well,
Week?
you know what? They
10
said,
days?
they said 3 days, but I went 2 weeks.
Right. So, but you could run out of water before you run out of food. Like you would die from dehydration before you'll die of starvation.
Correct.
But what happens if we cut the oxygen off from you? How long do you go without oxygen? Right, few minutes. So air is the most important. Water is number 2. And then movement is number 3. Because if you put a person in a bed and tie them down, all their muscles go away, all their organs start breaking down. This is one of the big issues when they put astronauts in space. They just start falling apart because they're not going against gravity. So air, water, and exercise, those movements are the most important components in your health. Now, food that's not digested, absorbed, and utilized by your body now becomes an obstacle to your energy production. It feeds bad bacteria that produce all kinds of toxic chemicals that screw up your brain and make you feel lousy and gives you crusty eyes and bad breath and low energy in the morning. So what you need to do for most people is recognize is I have a whole bunch of undigested food sitting in my gut that's hanging out over my belt. It's more than just fat. It's a bunch of toxic, sludgy chemicals that are built up in your intestinal tract. And anybody that's gone on a sophisticated cleanse or fast is shocked that you're fasting for 4 or 5 days and you're crapping out stuff that looks like those spin-off tires that you see on the highway from transport trucks. You're like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
It's undigested food that's been there for years. And so what you want to do is, number 1, make sure that you're breaking down your food. That requires enzymes, hydrochloric acid, and probiotics. But if you got a buildup of this plaque, you're going to need some herbs or something to help accelerate in addition to deep breathing and getting energy from your breath and getting energy from being hydrated and getting energy from movement and removing the obstacles that have been built up in your system using some herbs that can help scrape your intestinal tract out and push it out of the system so it's gone forever. Now your system is primed, it's clean, it's ready to be responsive. And that's why many of the detox and fasting and elimination programs are so powerful in allowing people to reconstitute their entire intestinal system so that when they do eat good foods, that they're getting the energy, the vitality, the building blocks, the energy spark plugs and all the minerals and everything that turns on all the cells so you light up and feel vibrant and full of energy and ready to rock. And that's one of the things that you advocate. And that's why our program and your program dovetail so well together.
Absolutely.
Because you're addressing not just the energy and movement points, but with your fascia components, you are unlocking particular glands and organs in the body that haven't been functioning forever because they didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
They didn't have the electrical pulses going in. So there's electricity and there's chemistry. We're on the chemistry side, you're on the electricity side. And when you put those things together,
it works.
That's like gas and fire. Boom. And you create literally an engine of energy that allows you to power you to do the things you want in your life.
Well, that's why, I mean, that's why we, with the 28-day reset, it's the celery juice, which is antimicrobial, antibiotic, antifungal. And then we put in MassZymes and P3OM, and they go in and literally, with the diatomaceous earth, which is scraping the walls, the diatoms, the small intestines. And then the MassZymes are eating all that crap up. And the P3OM is taking and giving and deleteriously taking all the deleterious bacteria, targeting it and getting rid of it.
Exactly. You nailed it so eloquently.
What we've found is it was a simple thing. It seems so simple that people, like for example, autoimmune disease. We have thousands of people now that have reported with medical evidence that they've reversed their entire autoimmune process, including medical evidence. Again, I can say that because I'm not claiming it. They have, and we have the results. They've produced it, they've shared it. And a big part of it is before we were using the BioOptimizer supplements, because we started our resets without anything. We started it just with silica and minerals. And we took the lowest form and we got it a result. But then when we added diatomaceous earth and Irish sea moss, the results increased. Then when we added in the MassZymes, the P3OM, all of a sudden we have all these results are happening, and people are like, well, I'll give you a story. Her name's Leah Brown. She was on the live a little while ago. She's using your protocol with our protocol with their child, had a tumor on the brainstem. From July to now, it's reduced by 50%. The doctor's like, I have no idea. I've never seen this before. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm doing fascial maneuvers. I'm using our supplements and your supplements. That's all she's doing. And
so, yeah, to explain that, so people don't understand what enzymes are. There's over 25,000 different enzymatic pathways that are known, and probably a ton more that we have yet to discover. Enzymes are catalysts. They are the metabolic cellular workers inside of the body that accelerate the transitions of chemical processes in the body. They are accelerators, they are workers, they are catalysts to a host of metabolic processes. So whatever you're doing, if you have more enzymes in the body, then your ability to do work in the body is amplified. It's like if you have more money in your bank account, you can write more checks for all kinds of things that you want to do in life. Enzymes are your metabolic bank account. And if you're eating cooked food, and virtually everybody is, if you're eating irradiated food, pasteurized food, virtually everything, a lot of fruits and vegetables, when they're in the store, they've been irradiated and pasteurized and they've killed all the enzymes. Your body now has to manufacture enzymes. And to manufacture enzymes for digestion, that's what's taking up the 80% of the energy. Right. So what we said is, let's bypass that. Let's free up our organs on producing enzymes. We're going to put a whole array, 17 of the most potent enzymes in that formula, MassZymes, all in one formula. You take that and you turbocharge virtually everything that you're doing inside of your body in a way that says, wow, I feel this. I feel my digestion better. I have more energy to go out and to run and to walk and to jump and to play and to be a kid again. The difference of you being old and being a kid full of energy is the enzymatic bank count that you have. And that diminishes over time. The degeneration, the lack of energy, all of that stuff is related to your enzymatic bank account. And don't take my word for it. You can refer to a book called by Dr. Howell called Food Enzymes for Health and Longevity. And inside that book, he compared a whole series of animals, rats, cats, dogs, horses. And in one group, he'd feed them a highly rich enzymatic diet. And the other group, he would take all the enzymes out. And in every one of the studies, the ones that took the enzymes lived longer, lived stronger, developed few diseases, and procreated better. The ones that didn't have the enzymes, they started getting genetic diseases, they stopped having the ability to procreate, and they lived much less than their counterparts taking enzymes. So that was the fact that he was able to allocate in that book, Food Enzymes for Health and Longevity. Go out and grab that book. Don't take my word for it. Yeah. And then start using MassZymes and feel the difference.
So here's something. At the Human Garage Clinic, the lab test that we used was based on the science from Dr. Kerry Reams, who was healing disease. They put him in prison in the 70s. He died in prison. They put him in prison for practicing medicine without a license because he helped somebody on the phone in Arizona and he was licensed in California. So his whole theory was the terrain theory about balancing the pH, and it was testing between the mouth and the urine, and we had a lab test that did that. But the other way to do it is literally to take your saliva from your urine 3 times and your test 3 times a day and look at it. And what we found was that when the pHs were balanced, even if it was unhealthy, we felt good. In other words, our body felt good, and the felt good means it wasn't doing a lot of work. So like if my pH was at my nutritional pH and from here to my urine was 5.8, that's not healthy. But if they were 5.8 here and 5.8 there, I felt good. And this is what I had a substrate of this as part of my 10,000 lab tests that I did on people in this area. And what I found is he would give us certain types of calcium to buffer so that we could bring the pH together to help somebody heal. So in other words, we'd bring the pH both up and down to 6.4. And then when they matched, then the body would start to heal. And I kept asking, why is it doing this? And the reason why is because when the pH is off balance, like we have different pH on our skin, on our mouth, in our mouth, in our stomach, in our small intestine, large intestine, in our urine, we have pH differences all through our body. And that's all the key for everybody who's listening to this, because they'll go, yeah, blood pH can't change, otherwise you're dead. That's true. It's to keep that blood pH the same, because the blood is regulating everything. So what we were using is we were using all these different types of buffered calciums to regulate the pH. And if we get it to that same pH, the body would then start to heal. And the reason why, it wasn't using the energy to manage its environment, terrain. So what we found is high doses of MassZymes immediately regulated the pH between the saliva and the urine, like immediately. And I never liked putting the calcium in, because that's a lot of extra load on the system. But that's where I first started falling in love with MassZymes, is because I could regulate somebody's pH. And that's part of it. If my pH is balanced, then my body has more energy to heal, digest, process, and everything else. And that's one thing that we noticed right off the bat with the MassZymes.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that, I know there's a lot of people talking in the chat about bacteria culture. So there's 3 things that you need to optimize your digestion. Number 1, a full array of enzymes that you're probably not getting, with a specific emphasis on proteolytic enzymes, because undigested protein leaking into the bloodstream is the number 1 cause for a hyperreactive immune response. The other thing is, the thing with undigested protein is it feeds bad bacteria in your intestinal tract, and that causes a bunch of toxins. Number 2, hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid serves 2 components. It comes in about 30 to 60 minutes after you eat, and it changes the pH of your digestive food. So some enzymes are activated at 1 pH, and they're deactivated at another. Now, MassZymes is one of the only formulas that has a multi-stage proteolytic enzyme that works in the full range of pHs, so that you break down all your protein into amino acids. Your body doesn't need protein, it needs amino acids. The final piece of the puzzle is your microbiome. That is the combination of your bacteria cultures, and there's a whole array, and as we go through life, and through the generations, we're getting less and less by what they call microbiome diversity. In other words, we don't have much of bacteria. We live in a symbiotic relationship between these bacteria and our body. We're actually feeding the bacteria. The bacteria converts our food, that final stage of food, into energy units or into building blocks. And without them, we can't make the neurotransmitters that make us feel happy and focused and feeling great. We can't provide the amino acids to help our muscles recover and regenerate. We can't convert the fats or the carbohydrates into the energy units or the lipids that rebuild our cells.
Right.
And so putting in the right enzymes, sufficient hydrochloric acid, and enough of the right bacteria in your system optimizes your digestion, reduces the metabolic load that's happening, that's causing you to have low energy. That frees up your organs in order to do the jobs they're supposed to do. And then when you combine that with your fascia maneuvers that are unlocking the electrical flow in the body, that opens up the full channel of electricity to all of these organs and glands that make you operate perfectly the way you were designed, then you just have a cascade of energy and vitality that is undeniable, not only by yourself, but by the people that you start to interact with. There's a reason why so many people are following you, Gary. It's because you have cracked the code, unlocking the energy meridians that are opening up access to the essential organs that your body requires in order to fuel your life.
Yeah, and it's a really big component to the transition is they take the largest stressor that people have, which is food consumption, processing, eliminating, and reduce the allostatic load on the body. And this is why, like, I fell in love when you came in, 2018 is when I was discovering the new fascia work. You were like literally in the first 50 or 100 people that got that new fascial treatment. And that's when my whole belief in enzymes and the digestive system, because for me before that, I said, you got to have good digestion. That was it. But that's when I started to believe that that was a bigger player in this role in helping people heal. So you're a big component, like your research, your supplements were a big component in me deriving this new understanding.
Yeah, it's, it works hand in hand. And I've been delighted because I know when I went and had that experience at the Human Garage, I was like, okay, this just answers a whole bunch of questions that nobody in my experience at the university level had any idea about. Not only that, is since that time, you have taken that from an outside assistance component to an internal process with your fascia maneuvers.
Yeah.
When I came up and had that little bit of time with you in British Columbia,
That was awesome.
A couple of months, I was blown away by how effective and simple the process that you have developed that literally blows the entire industry wide open. I'm sure there's a lot of practitioners that are just freaking out because you've eliminated the need for their services with fascia maneuvers.
You know what? Here's what's happening, to be honest, is that there's a lot of practitioners in it for the money, and there's a lot that just got in it because they want to help people. The ones who got in because they want to help people have been implementing. So we have what we can figure between 500,000 and 750,000 practitioners that are giving this out, because we have 20 million people doing it, but we only have 3 million people on social media. So that means that the word of mouth is bigger. And what we're getting right now is people calling us up and they're saying, hey, I've been doing this for like 9 months and I didn't even know you guys existed, because they were doing something that their practitioner gave them. So what I love about it is that for the practitioners like me, I was distressed because as a practitioner, they come in with a life-threatening illness. Like they're going to die. And I'm asking them to do something 10 to 15 minutes a day at home. And once a week, they come in the next week and I'm like, so how did it go this week? Well, I got to it once, but I'm like, you're going to die. Why are you not doing this every day? And it was taking and putting the practitioners, giving them tools that are simple, that people can take control of their health at home. And really at the end of it is, like I say, unlock the electricity, reduce the stress. And that's really what it is. And then when you do it with the BioOptimizers, you're unlocking the activity, absorbing better and reducing the stress. And that's why it works so well.
Yeah, it works hand in hand.
Hey, by the way,
it's like your car engine. It's gas and fire. You're turning on the fire.
Yeah.
We're turning on the gas.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the engine work.
Vroom. Hey, by the way, I don't know if you guys were able to do it, but we did our Joshua Tree event. I did it in the desert on purpose. I wanted to see who's going to come out to the desert. And so we had like 500 people show up there on a short notice. So we're doing an event in Vancouver on the 16th, and we expect between 500 and 1,000 people to be there. And I just wondered if I'm just throwing this out in case I don't talk to you and things get really crazy, because we got a retreat to go to. That if you guys want to have representation there, we'd love to have you there, or even just some sort of information or Bibles for people to pick up there in real time.
We'll figure something out that we can provide some sort of service. I think I'm scheduled for another event on that day, but I might be able to have someone that can fill the gap in the interim to provide that information, that critical information.
Because you're such a big part of this, the 28-day reset. And actually, you know where the benefit is? I'll start sharing. We're getting into the spot where we can start sharing the stories with you. But we have these parents that are supporting their children. And these children are like autistic, on the spectrum, cancer, spastic cerebral palsy, all kinds of these edge diseases that are not curable or fixable. And they've implemented the BioOptimizers protocols alongside of ours. And when they started doing that, it literally was with the combination, kids are coming off the spectrum. And it's really, really making a difference. We are launching that on our platform in 2 to 3 weeks, because right now it's in this WhatsApp group. But the testimonials we're getting from the BioOptimizers, man, it's unbelievable. And people are going, I'm not taking antibiotics. I've got my P3OM.
I had a surgery last year here. It was a small surgery, not a big deal. But my surgeon, who is in Beverly Hills, one of the most famous surgeons in this area, he came to me and I said, I got P3OM. I don't like using antibiotics. What's your opinion if I don't use the antibiotics? And he said, I'm not supposed to say this as a medical doctor. He says, but I believe that you will have absolutely no problem. So I went through the surgery just using the P3OM as my agent, and I recovered from the surgery faster than anyone else. No painkillers, no antibiotics. Now, I'm not suggesting people go out and do that, but I'm trying to illustrate the potency of these products, that even a person in the medical industry that's doing surgery at the highest level in Beverly Hills, who's using our products and putting his patients on it, said that he felt it was more effective than the agents that they were using.
You know, I tell people, I don't recommend anything. I tell people, this is what I did. Here's all the tools and the reasons I made the decision. Make your own decision. And the latest, I mean, we've got some stuff coming up here, but anyways, we gotta shut down here. I got another meeting to go to. Wade, it's always great talking to you. I look forward to these conversations. These are going up in a series on our website, and these are actually, all these talks are going into our internal education programs. So I appreciate that. I have some topics I want to tackle next time.
You betcha. Thanks so much. Grab yourself the Ultimate Nutrition Bible. It's a great Christmas present for anybody or any family. You'll love it. It'll change your life.
We'll put it up in our link tree. Thanks, Wade.
Take care.